Hey everyone, welcome back to the Let's Talk Teaching podcast with Kayla Durkin. I am so excited to kick off this series. I have the amazing opportunity to interview first year teachers who just finished their first year of teaching. And so we are kicking off with our very first one today. I actually have the opportunity to interview one of my blossoming teacher students, which makes everything just so much more fun. So I hope you learn a little bit, you laugh a little bit, and you are just excited for what next year has in store for you. So with that, we are going to bring out Regan and say, hey, Regan, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
Good, thank you. Why don't you start off by just telling everyone a little bit about you?
So my name is Reagan Drury. I am a first year teacher from Missouri, and I went to college in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, right in the middle of downtown, for a completely unrelated degree. I got a theater degree and then changed my mind right before my senior year and decided I wanted to be a teacher instead. Oh,
So I love that. I know that's something we talked about a lot in the beginning. So why don't you tell everyone how getting that theater degree kind of has helped you in the classroom in a sense?
well, it's been really great already having training about thinking on your feet because a lot of theater is preparing ahead of time, but when everything's live, you never know what can change in the moment. So you have to be ready to roll with the punches, and you have to do that a lot with teaching because sometimes the kids don't get it as fast as you thought they would, or an activity takes longer than a day, which is what you planned for. So you kind of have to change things up as you go, which is very similar to how theater works.
So something tells me you experienced a lot of that during your first year of teaching, changing things as you go, being quick on your feet.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I
Do you
had to
have, I
do
don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you have any examples of a time that you're like, wow, I did not plan on it going that way, but here we are?
Um, there were a couple different times I just actually created a unit for some of my kids at the end of this year, and I wanted to do something based on like these Nancy Drew computer games because my kids have to do these writing benchmarks where they have to look at all this research and then write a paper about their like an argumentative paper where they have to give all their evidence and support their claims. And so I thought, oh, well, these are kind of detective games. They're point and click. They have to like gather all their evidence and figure it out for themselves. So I created a notebook for them and they were going through and figuring all that out. But what I found was that some kids have like a brain for puzzles and being able to do puzzles, and not every kid enjoys puzzles and they get like really stressed when things aren't very linear. So I'm finding that it's taking a lot longer than I initially planned because I didn't count on the fact that not every kid is going to automatically adapt to that kind of activity.
So how are you pivoting now, maybe what you sort of thought the end of year would look like versus how it will because this activity is stretching out maybe longer than you thought?
I'm doing more one-on-one work with the kids that have a little bit more trouble with puzzles. I'm kind of trying to walk them through, okay, this is how you're going to solve this. I give them the steps to solve it because I still want them to be able to have the sense of accomplishment that would come with figuring it out on their own. But it's hard to get all of the steps when you're just kind of wandering around trying to figure out what to do. And it's kind of discouraging for them if they see all the other kids way ahead of them, so I try to keep everybody on the same playing field so nobody feels discouraged because another kid is at a different point in the activity.
I love that. That just shows how much you care. So, why don't you kind of just give us the inside scoop on your first year of teaching? What kind of classes are you teaching? What grades are you teaching? Tell us a little bit about it.
I teach 8th through 12th general English, and then I teach a novels and film elective and I taught a half contemporary lit, half mythology elective. So it switched per semester. So the first semester was one, the second semester was the other. And that was really interesting because I got to teach some more fun things that are not necessarily all writing, grammar, reading. It was more specialized, which meant I got to do more reading, which is kind of my favorite part anyway.
Yeah.
Um, so that part was really cool, but I liked being able to be with every grade because I got to see the middle schoolers, and I think middle schoolers are really fun. But I
Mhm.
got to see them right before they go into that area of high school, and then I also get to see the juniors and seniors who are about to go off and live their whole life. So I kind of get to be there for all of their stages and where they're at in their life right now. So that's really cool.
One of my favorite parts about hearing you say that is just your I get to mindset. Like you get to do all of those things, which is so cool. A lot of times, we're like, oh, I have to do this or I have to do that, but you get to do that, which I just love hearing. So, which class content wise is your favorite?
I'm gonna say probably my ninth grade class because I have a lot more of an opportunity to do um, full group activities with them. They're my biggest class. I teach at a pretty small school. So my ninth graders, I have 8 kids. So I can do more things with them than I can with a class of 2. So I really enjoy doing that class because they are just getting into that high school mindset of, oh, all my classes are kind of difficult now, and they're figuring out which classes they have more of an aptitude for. So I like seeing the ninth graders especially succeed at things because it kind of sets this precedent of, oh, English is going to be one of those classes that I think I can be naturally good in and I can continue to succeed in for the rest of high school. But I also just really like the books that I get to teach ninth grade year. They do To Kill a Mockingbird and they do Romeo and Juliet. And with my theater background, I really like teaching Shakespeare, even if the kids don't always like it.
I mean, there's so many cool things that you can do with Shakespeare and just Romeo and Juliet is such a fun story to dive into too. And I feel like it's one that kids always remember. To Kill a Mockingbird, I feel like we remember that one too, but Romeo and Juliet, everyone knows about that, right?
Yeah. Any story about, oh, the kids don't want to listen to their parents and they go off and do something completely opposite and they're
Right.
rebellious. I'm sure the teenagers are big fans of that one.
For sure. Okay. So I am thinking there are going to be people who are listening to this episode who are like, okay, wait, did I hear you right? You have 2 students in one of your classes?
Yep, you did in fact hear me correctly. I teach at a really small Title I school, so my biggest class is 9, and then in some classes I had 1 student, but I did end up with a class with 2, and that was my smallest class.
That is just wild. I mean, differentiation can't be that hard when you only
It's
have
a little
two,
bit
right?
easier. It's a little bit easier with only 2 kids.
I love that. Okay, so let's talk about first positives. Favorite thing about teaching so far?
Um, what I really enjoy is the relationship that I think I've built with the kids over this year. It's when I started, I remember my first day thinking, okay, I've prepared for this. I'm ready because I did all this reading. And since I wasn't in a college prep course for education, I had taken some education classes for fun and things like that. But I felt, oh, I'm prepared for this. I've done all this extra reading. I can do it. And my first day, I was so nervous and I was like, I thought I knew stuff. I do not know anything. And then the longer I went into it and the more I started to build the relationships with the kids, that brought confidence up in me because I thought, well, I enjoy being around them. And if they enjoy being around me and they know that I'm here to listen to them and I'm here to support them, they're more likely to want to do the things that I plan for them because they know that I want them to have fun. They know that about me because I don't shy away from the fact that I'm very weird and loud and all of those things in front of them. So I really try to hype up the activities, and that helps because if they have a good relationship with me and I have a good relationship with them, they know, oh, this is who she is. She cares about us. And so we want to do well for her for that reason.
Yeah.
So that's probably been my favorite part is because I like joking around with them and seeing them like books that I recommend to them. That's one of my favorite parts as well. So yeah.
I think that is so awesome when you can recommend books and talk about that with your students and just have that comfort with each other. You know each other, you understand the likes and interests. So that's really awesome. And so if someone is wondering, okay, I want to know like if I could have one relationship building tip, what would you say?
I would probably say the thing that really made a difference for me this year is that not every kid is a kid that you're going to click with right away. There are going to be some kids that drive you up a wall and they like stress you out when you think of them in the car on the way home because you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? But one of the things that my mom always said to me when I would call her and I would talk to her about, well, this happened at school today, she'd always say, try to find at least one positive thing about that kid to grasp onto. And then when you find yourself being frustrated or being negative about them outside of school, which is your own personal time anyway, you should just try to think about, that positive about them. And that was really helpful, because then when I would think about them outside of school and think about what can I do to help them, I would think, well, I know that they're really good at this thing. I know that this is a positive thing that they have going for them. Maybe they talk a lot or something like that. They're good at communicating. There's so many things that you can do with that that allow them to still do that, but also kind of push them towards success in your subject. But yeah, that was really helpful and really helped me not feel as down about some of the kids. I felt like I wasn't reaching as fast as I was the other kids.
I absolutely love that. And I think that is something that can transfer into all aspects of our life, because there is going to be a coworker, an administration, a colleague, whoever it is, someone in the building that we're like, man, that person just annoys me. But if we can
Yeah.
think about the positives, if we can give them the benefit of the doubt, students, peers, whatever it is, I think it's so helpful. So thank you for sharing that. Is that the best tip you've received, or do you feel like you received a different tip your first year of teaching that you'd want to share?
A good tip as far as just teaching in general, and that it goes along with kids that you don't reach as fast, is that we can't really take the things that they say and do personal to us. And I
Mhm.
remember during the Blossoming Teacher course, one of the things that I always remembered you saying is that the kids that need love the most often show it the least. And so that was one thing that I would remind myself of sometimes, is that it didn't really have anything to do with me. It was just they're having a bad day or something's going on at home and they're lashing out at me, but it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with me. So the only thing that I can do is be there for them and know that, you know, I can't take it personal because I have a job to do. And if I'm thinking about that all day, it's going to hinder the rest of my job and hinder my relationship with them. So yeah, that was probably one of the better tips that I have gotten this year.
I am so glad you said that. For everyone listening, I had no idea Reagan was going to say this. We didn't get the opportunity to fill out a pre-interview survey, and so this is off the cusp. And my teacher heart is just so happy. So thank you for sharing that. I mean, it's so true, though. Students are going to ask for love in the most unloving ways, and we have to understand that the life that we go home to is very, very different than the lives our students go home to, and oftentimes it is unimaginable. Like, we truly cannot fathom the things they're going through. And no, not all students are going through super hard things. There are still just going to be kids that are just going to be a little reckless and a little wild in their behavior. But if we give them the benefit of the doubt, I think it really does make us a better teacher. And if we cannot take it personally and just remember, like, okay, this is happening in this moment, but I'm going to move on and life is going to be okay. So we've kind of talked about some relationship tips. You've shared a few of your activities. How about, were there any classroom management plans that you followed? Anything that maybe you used from college or that you learned in some PD you've taken?
I did a lot of research after Christmas break started, because what I was finding was that I had spent so much time on the relationship part that the classroom management had kind of fallen by the wayside, and I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted to as far as behavior. So I had been in a introductory teaching class in my alt cert program the semester before. So I was rereading the book from that, which was The First Days of School by Harry Wong. So I was rereading through that. And I was looking up how teachers reset their classroom management plans after they come back from break. And so basically, I just kind of reset up my expectations when I got back, because they'd been gone for so long that it was kind of like a fresh start. And it
Mhm.
still didn't work as well as I would have liked, but it did help that I was able to kind of be candid with them about, hey, the things that I was seeing last semester, I really don't want to see those kinds of things anymore. Like, I don't want us to be talking badly about other people behind their back. That was a big one that I really was trying to nip in the bud, because I don't want my classroom to be the gossip room, because then it's not a safe space for the other kids when they come
Yeah.
in there. You never know if you're being talked about in there. I think they just know.
Yeah.
So I was really trying to curb that habit. So being candid with them about what I wanted to see change did help. I have a lot of new plans for next year, so we'll see how that goes. But for now, that was a good start, because it taught me like how I can like fix it for the future.
Mhm.
So I was glad for the learning experience of it all.
Oh, for sure. So there's a couple things. First, two plugs, I guess I'll say. If you are wondering more about that book, you can go to ndteaching.com/Amazon and it's in my book list. So feel free to check it out there if you haven't heard of it before. If you are wondering about tips for reviewing routines and procedures after a long break, if you go to ndteaching.com/blog, I also have a blog post about that. So I think it's incredibly important that Reagan brought this up because we all get second chances. We all get a fresh start. We give our students a fresh start every single day when they enter our rooms. And that doesn't mean that you can't have a fresh start either, especially as a first year teacher. There are going to be things that you've done that you're like, yeah, I definitely want to do that differently. And if it's early enough in the year, you don't have to wait till the next year to do it. You can just, as Reagan said, she was very upfront with her students and she said, you know what, this is something I'm seeing and it is not something I want to continue seeing. So this is how we're going to work on it. So Reagan, I guess I have to ask, are there other things that your next year, your second year of teaching, you definitely are going to do differently aside from your classroom management plan?
I have a lot of new plans for next year. Yeah, it's definitely, even with the classroom management, I feel starting out the year, I thought the book talked a lot about setting routines. And I remember thinking, oh, the high schoolers are going to think that's silly if we like practice the routines. But I wish I would have just done it and not been worried about whether they think it was silly. So next year, I'm not going to worry about whether they think things are silly or not. We're just going to do them if it means setting them up for success. But I think also one of the things that I want to make sure that I do next year is really keeping track of the kids that have IEPs and 504s and really keeping up with what can I do to help them,
Mhm.
because they kind of get lost in the shuffle sometimes because they're, if everybody else is doing something on task or on track the way that you kind of planned it, you don't always look at the kid that is behind. You're just kind of like, okay, yeah, we got to move on. And I want to make sure that I prioritize them more next year because I want them to be able to finish high school like further along than they are right now. And I don't want to be the reason that they're even further behind because I didn't take the time or put in the effort to make sure that I'm doing what's right for them.
I love that. So tell us about how you do your kind of self reflections. Like, are these just things that you are noticing and you're thinking about changing? Have you done a formal self reflection? Are you pulling these things from like observations that have happened? How do you go through your reflection process?
Some of it was from observation. We do a couple different observations throughout the year, and sometimes our principal just walks in, which I think happens in most schools. But she did when we did my contract renewal meeting at the end of this year, she went through my evaluation, and I took notes on it, and we kind of talked about what we could change for next year. But I do journal sometimes. I have a journal that has like a bunch of mini journals in it, and one of them is like career goals and your goals for life. So when I fill that out, sometimes I'm thinking about what can I do better, and even just I have a bullet journal as well that I started at the beginning of the year, and I have a list of things that maybe lessons that didn't go well or interactions I wish had been better, so that I can prioritize either fixing relationship flubs that maybe I made a mistake because obviously we're not perfect, or fixing lessons that I thought the kids were really confused by and I really need to do better. So yeah, it's just kind of, if I do something and it doesn't work, I try to write it down so I don't forget it because I want to be able to fix it next year. I might not have planned out how yet, but
Yeah.
it is something that I am thinking about.
That's incredible. I love hearing that you're kind of pulling things from everywhere. Your principal's doing walkthroughs, which is so important. I am a firm believer that you should always have an open door policy. Anyone can walk through your room at any time. And the reason I feel that way, I guess, is because a lot of times teachers don't want other people in their room because they don't want to be caught doing something they shouldn't. But if you're always doing the right thing, then I guess you kind of have nothing to worry about. So invite those principals in, invite other people into your room because you have no idea if they're going to maybe see something that maybe you didn't even think about. And so I guess I don't know if this is putting you too much on the spot, but was there anything in your evaluation, Reagan, that you were like, yeah, I guess I really didn't think about that. But now that you bring it up, it's kind of eye opening.
Yeah, it seems like kind of small, I suppose, but one of the things that I still think about now, and I try to make more of an effort to do, is one of the things my principal said pretty early on in the year was that I wasn't walking around as much as I should be. And I realized that not only does that help a little bit with the behavioral stuff because they're less likely to misbehave when I'm standing right next to them. It also makes them feel more able to ask questions. Like I had a student earlier this year that I noticed wasn't asking for help a lot, and I didn't know if it was because they felt nervous that other people would make fun of them for asking for help or something like that. But I found that they were always more likely to ask for help when I was walking around because they would just stop me on my way by. And it wasn't like, and everybody look at me, I need help thing. It was more of a, oh, can you help me real quick, and then go on with what you're doing. So it wasn't as attention getting. So that was more helpful too because they felt more able to ask me for help.
That is so cool. Good for you for being able to take what your principal said and be able to use it as constructive feedback and say, you know what, these are things I'm going to change, and then being able to see some positives from it. So I guess two more things I want to ask you. Any favorite activities that you have done this school year that you definitely want to do again? And maybe opposite of that, any activities you did this school year and you're like, yeah, for sure, never doing that again.
I did a thing for Edgar Allan Poe's, I think it was either for his birthday or it was for Halloween. It was one of the two, but it's kind of morbid, but I created this like fake dead body on the floor out of pillows, and I put a blanket on top of it and did like crime scene tape and all that stuff. And they had to solve the mystery of who had committed the murder by going through Telltale Heart, by Edgar Allan Poe, and figuring out little clues. So that was really fun. And the kids like all told me that they thought it was cool. But yeah, there were some other activities that I was like, probably wouldn't do that again. I'm finding a lot of the poetry type stuff when I'm teaching them about how stanzas work and how rhyme scheme works. I don't feel that I'm explaining it very well because they all seem very confused when I talk about it. So I'm definitely going to try to look for some more activities that make it a little more clear than I've been explaining it. So yeah, things like that, and sentence types as well, with the simple, compound, complex. I get a lot of confusion about those too. So I'm looking for some more basic activities that explain it in like layman's terms for sure, so that it makes a lot more sense to them.
I feel like poetry is something that is so hard to teach. Honestly, I think I hear from all kinds of teachers that it's like my poetry unit, yikes. So if anyone is listening to this and you are amazing at teaching poetry, reach out to us so I can give your contact information to Reagan and maybe she can get a few tips from you. Not that you're doing a bad job, but just hearing your reflection here, I guess. And then I'll throw myself under the bus. Sentence structures right away when Reagan joined the Blossoming Teacher course. I remember saying like, Reagan, I'm going to be sending emails and there's going to be grammatical errors in there and please don't correct them for me. So I totally get it.
I thought that would be pretty rude if I was like, I've just met this person. I will now correct every grammatical error that they make. I probably wouldn't do that ever anyway.
There are people out there though that will reply and be like, you used the wrong form of your. And I know the forms of your, but sometimes we're just sending things so quickly.
They're hard. I do not blame you.
So, okay, I guess my last question then here for you is what advice do you have for other first year teachers who are starting their first year next year?
I guess I have a couple. One of the things that I really did try to do this year is not to work myself up and make myself nervous about things like observations, and just told myself, they're here to make me better. It helps that I have a pretty good relationship with my principal and I trust her to tell me the truth and to help me improve and not to hold it against me like, oh, you're getting fired if you do one thing wrong.
Right.
But I started to kind of look forward to them because they were a chance for me to grow and figure out what I could do better. And I know not everybody probably has that opportunity. Sometimes principals are scary. I totally get it because I thought the same thing. But yeah, not to be super scared of those and to try to observe other teachers if they will let you. I totally agree with the open door policy. I really want to go and prioritize that as well next year, is watching other teachers and seeing what they do that I can implement. we have a woman in our school who came in this year like me, and she's certified in a particular strategy of teaching. I don't remember the name right this second, but she did a workshop for us. And so seeing her talk to us about it and hearing all of her strategies, I really want to see them at work in her room now and see how it works with the kids that she's teaching. So it's definitely something that I want to try to do more next year. But it's never, my last piece of advice is probably that we can always keep growing. So even if you have a day where you feel like you've screwed up beyond belief and you're like, do I feel that I can do this for the next however many years? Now that I've chosen this as my career, do I feel like I can still do this? Is to take a breath and think, what can I do to fix this mistake? And really reflect on, do I think that I want to do this for the rest of my life, or am I just in a place right now where I'm really upset at this current situation and I'm expanding it onto the rest of my career? Because I definitely did that a lot. I was like, is this a bad day, or am I telling myself that this is going to be the rest of my life?
You nailed these tips. So, just so everyone knows, again, Reagan didn't fill out a pre-interview questionnaire. Like, she is pulling these things from thin air, which is amazing. Thank you for all of the advice that you have shared today. I do not want to cut you off. So, is there anything before we end this that you are thinking that you definitely want to get out there and share for any other teachers?
Hmm. I don't really think so. Maybe if you're a first year teacher and you're going into your first year of teaching, maybe join the Blossoming Teacher course. It was super helpful for me and definitely made me feel more prepared. I think that getting into it and actually doing it is your best preparation. Just going in and being like, I'm a teacher now. I guess I'm
Yes.
gonna learn as I go.
Yeah.
But all the preparation I did beforehand, it was really helpful having somebody who had already taught, and all of the classroom organization videos and things like that, and the scheduling, the batch lesson planning workshop thing too was really helpful.
Well, thank you. Thank you for saying that and putting that out there. I'm glad that it helped you, obviously. I mean, I know with everything, our first year of teaching is there's some high highs and there's some low lows, but look at you. You are almost at the end of your year, and overall, just tell us, like, better than you expected, worse than you expected, in the middle, where are you at?
It's probably kind of in the middle. I think when I was first deciding this is what I'm gonna do, you're always kind of really attracted to the aesthetic of it.
Mhm.
Like you see all the teachers on Instagram and stuff, and you're like, oh, they have all the cute outfits. Look at all their cute organizational bins and their signs and stuff. Man, I'm gonna be so organized. I'm gonna be the teacher. And then you get into it and you're like, oh, I do not even have the energy to make myself dinner, so I do not have the energy to make cute little signs. Um, yeah, it's kind of like that. And I came in thinking, oh, well, I thought I would be a little worse at this because I haven't done it before. And I thought I would be a little better at it. So I feel like I'm right in the middle and I have room to grow and get better.
Yeah.
It's not like perfect. Like I think I was expecting it in my head, even though that's unrealistic. But it also wasn't, oh, I'm done. I'm never doing this again either. So
So some moments of thriving, some moments of surviving, right?
exactly. That's a great way to describe it because that's what it was like.
What was, I know we're going past time here, but what was like the point in the year where you hit your lowest, if I can ask? Like, I feel like
Oh, yeah, sure.
or October or February for me was always so hard. What would you say?
I think it probably, believe it was in January, um, because I remember, I don't know if you used Marco Polo before, but
Yeah.
it's this app where you can send videos. And I had a professor in college before. I wasn't a education major, as I said before, but I did take some general education classes. And this woman was like the best teacher I've ever seen. She was so engaging. Every student loved her. And so she gave us all the permission to Marco Polo her if we ever needed anything.
Hmm.
So I talked to her throughout the year about lesson plan ideas and stuff, but I just was crying and telling her, I don't really know what to do. I feel like I am not very good at this. I don't know that I can do this for the next 20 years or however long our careers are supposed to last. Um, and she told me to just really take a deep breath. And she told me the same thing that I said earlier, is that it was just a bad period and that it didn't have to define the whole next however
Hmm.
many years of my life. And so being able to talk to her about it, and having somebody who's been teaching and is now a doctor,
Yeah.
like she has a doctorate, it's like she's been doing this a long time, so she has probably been where I'm at.
Yeah.
And so that was really helpful. So having older mentor teachers to go to was really helpful for me when I was at my lowest, and obviously my parents as well, because they both work in the school system, so they kind of help bring me down. I have a hard time seeing the big picture. I'm very right in front of me
Hmm.
and not always looking ahead to what's coming next. It's just, this is bad right now, so it's bad forever. But yeah, my parents were very helpful with that as well.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, thank you for your honesty and just being so open and willing to share about your first year of teaching. I really do think there are teachers who are going to listen to this, and I think it's going to resonate with them. So thank you so much for sharing, Reagan. If anyone is listening to this and you ever want to get in contact with Reagan, reach out to me. Reagan, do you have would you mind sharing anything if someone wanted to reach out to you?
Oh, sure. I did have a teacher Instagram, but it was just a lot of upkeep, so I decided to get rid of it. But my Instagram is Reagan_Drury. So that's REAGAN_DRURY. And you can also email me at ReaganEDrury@gmail.com if you want to talk.
And if you can't get any of that information or can't find it, reach out to me at North Dakota Teaching and we'll get you hooked up. So thank you so much for this today, Reagan. It has been the best time ever.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
All right. Talk to you later.
See ya.
If you're still here, I just have to say thank you so much for tuning into our very first episode in this series. I think Reagan is an incredible teacher, and I just feel so blessed that we had her as our first teacher on here. So, if you are just finishing your first year of teaching and you would love to be a part of this series, please reach out to me on Instagram. I would love to interview you. I would love to hear how your first year of teaching went. So, send me a message and let's get together and let's do the dang thing. Alrighty, we are going to have my friend Peyton up next week, and I think you're going to love her. She is just the sweetest thing ever. So thanks for being here, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.